Ever wonder how your favourite epic fantasy worlds are built? Do these hugely successful authors meticulously map out every twist, or just see where the story takes them? It's often summed up in two simple terms: the architect and the gardener. I'm a thriller author myself. As an ex-police detective, I've always been drawn to writing crime and psychological thrillers. I have sold over 2 million copies of my books, and I follow my own 6-step system, but I never stop learning, because I believe that the key to keeping your writing fresh and interesting is to learn well and see what suits and make it your own. But some authors write so differently. Which method will work for you? So when it comes to modern fantasy genre, no two authors represent this creative clash better than Brandon Sanderson and George R.R. Martin. One is a master planner with magic systems so detailed they could fill a manual. The other grows his stories like a wild fantasy garden, with plot lines and characters growing in unexpected ways. Brandon Sanderson's net worth is estimated to be at around $6 million, while it's said that George R.R. Martin's net worth is around $120 million. Sanderson's income is primarily from his prolific book sales and a record-breaking Kickstarter campaign, while the majority of George R.R. Martin's wealth comes from his Song of Ice and Fire book series, and of course the TV adaptation of his work, Game of Thrones. So let's dig into the gardener versus architect writing style and explore how Sanderson and Martin each approach their craft and figure out which method might work best for you. So what is a gardener versus an architect? These terms were populated by George R.R. Martin himself, and they capture two very different ways of building a story. Architects create a detailed blueprint before writing a single word. They know their ending, their plot beats, and the journey each character will take. Like a builder with plans spread out on the table, they work methodically to bring that vision to life. Gardeners plant a seed, maybe a character or a setting or a conflict, and discover the story as it grows. They're guided by curiosity, letting the plot evolve organically. Characters might surprise them, subplots might sprout out of nowhere, and the story often takes twists in unexpected ways. Now, I'm a hybrid of the two. I use the same system for every one of my books, and it works. My books don't need big structural changes by the time they reach my editor's inbox, and I always know where to land those twists where they really pack a punch. Now, many writers fall somewhere in between plotting and pantsing, but our two fantasy heavyweights sit firmly at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Brandon Sanderson is the poster child for the architect approach. His sprawling epics, the Stormlight Archive, the Mistborn series are all built on really intricate planning. Brandon is a night owl and runs his writing life like a precision instrument. It surprised me to hear that most writing days he gets up around 2 or 1 p.m, then writes in 2 dedicated blocks of 3 to 4 hours each, sometimes even longer when the words are flowing. He sets a firm daily word count goal, often around 2,000 words or roughly 10 pages, and sticks to it religiously. He's so disciplined that even his family time and leisure are slotted in, followed by another writing session late into the night, often until 3 or 4 a.m. He once even joked that a vacation to him means one thing: more time to write. Sanderson is famous for his output. He writes about 2 to 3 full-length books a year and publishes between 1 and 2 books a year on average. And don't forget, the genre of these books are, big, thick books, so that's a lot of work. So what sets the Brandon Sanderson writing process apart? Well, detailed outlines. His outlines can run into hundreds of pages, mapping character arcs, plot twists, and emotional beats in advance. So we have draft 1, which is discovery. Following his outline, he gets the whole story down, messy but complete. Draft 2 is refining. He reshapes the story, adds missing pieces, and smooths down rough edges. Draft 3 is polishing. He works with trusted readers and editors to perfect every scene. Rules of magic. Sanderson's laws of magic are legendary. He builds systems with clear, logical rules that never cheat the reader. For Sanderson, the joy is in the puzzle, designing a complex machine and then setting it in motion. George follows a very different rhythm. He's said to start working in the afternoon or evening. He often begins his writing day by revising the previous day's work, rereading bits to find his writing tone again, and only moving ahead if the mood strikes. He writes on a vintage DOS computer using WordStar 4.0 setup, and he said that keeps distractions completely out of the picture. In true Gardner fashion, he lets scenes and characters surprise him, sculpting the story as he goes. When working on The Winds of Winter, he locks himself away, often in a mountain cabin with minimal outside contact, his assistant bringing him coffee while he writes almost non-stop. Nice if you can get it. When he's on a roll, he can keep going until dawn. He's said to prefer the quiet hours when the phone isn't ringing and there are no interruptions. Martin takes between 3 to 5 years to publish one novel, although he is prolific in other ways, editing anthologies, writing short stories, and working on screenplays. Martin lets his characters drive the plot, and if they make a surprising choice, he follows it, even if it blows up his plans. And sometimes that can backfire, but I admire his bravery in going ahead with it. His worlds are deep and layered because he takes the time to explore every corner. And that's why Westeros feels alive, and that's why waits between his books can be so long, but very worth it. As a self-confessed pantser, Martin believes discovery keeps the story fresh for both the writer and the reader. And if he knows exactly what will happen, he said the joy of telling it disappears. For Martin, the pleasure is in planting a seed and watching the story grow into something unexpected. So which method is right for you? Well, take the test. You might be an architect if you can't imagine starting without a chapter-by-chapter plan. If you have color-coded spreadsheets, index cards, or plotting software and it makes you happy. If you work out your plot twists, character details, and subplots before you even write a chapter. If you panic if you don't know how the story ends. You might be a gardener if you see outlines as creative straitjackets. If your best plot twists arrive uninvited, often mid-scene. If characters sometimes refuse to follow your plan and you love that. If you'd rather discover the ending as you go rather than lock it in early. Now, this is me and it might be you too. You might be hybrid. If you like to know the big milestones, but you leave room to roam between them. If you'll happily ditch your outline if a better idea comes along. If you need structure to keep moving, but too much kills your excitement. If you enjoy the best of both worlds, planning enough to stay on track and discovering enough to keep the story exciting. To me, being a hybrid means I get to cherry pick the best of both worlds. And I love it when my characters surprise me and throw a bombshell into my story. And then I have to go back and layer it again with all these little clues. The Brandon Sanderson writing process shows how structure can create epic, satisfying payoffs. Whereas the George R.R. Martin process proves that discovery can lead to worlds full of life and surprise. The real winner? Well, it's the one that gets you to the end. So which are you? Drop your answer in the comments. We'd love to know. And if you'd like to add a spark to your writing, then check out this video where I explain how to fix the dreaded boring writing. Because if your writing is putting you to sleep, then it's going to bore your readers too. If you're still watching, you care deeply about your story, and I love that. So check out the special offers in my links below if you enjoyed the video, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell for notifications.